February 26, 1975. The morning air in Klamath Falls was crisp, the sky a wide, inviting blue. Nunn drove her husband David, their daughter, and their infant granddaughter to the airport. Also waiting were two aviation students, 17-year-olds Pryor and Matt Perkins. David Nunn was more than just a pilot. He was a veteran and a respected high school teacher. Jim and Matt weren't just passengers. They were young men with the world in front of them, eager to earn their flight hours under a man they admired. In that cabin, the small talk crackled over the headsets, the students asking about David's military days, the light-hearted chatter that fills a cabin when the mission is family. After watching them take off, Jean made the short drive back home. But as she walked through her front door, a strange, deep chill settled over her. She felt so unwell that she went to bed early, seeking warmth while the sun was still high. Meanwhile, the flight to Salem was a success. David touched down, helped his daughter and granddaughter onto the tarmac, and shared a final goodbye. He had fulfilled his mission. But as the nose of the plane turned back toward the Cascades, the trap was already being set.
To understand what happened next, you have to understand the treachery of the Oregon Cascades. On the flight north, the plane was heavy. To clear the high-altitude passes, David would have been clawing for lift in the thin mountain air. Managing density altitude, a silent killer that makes a plane perform as if it's much higher than it actually is. As they headed south, the weather turned. Within minutes, the clear afternoon vanished into a whiteout. In these conditions, spatial disorientation takes hold. Your inner ear tells you that you're level, even as you're biking into a turn. David wasn't stalling. He was in controlled flight into terrain. He was piloting a functioning aircraft through a blind world, unaware the ground was rising to meet him. At 9:30 p.m., Jean Nunn was jolted awake in her dark bedroom. She felt a physical pressure on her leg, a firm, phantom hand. She reached for the phone and called the Klamath Tower. Her voice was a whisper of desperate certainty. "My husband is gone." He went down at 9:30 on the other end. The controller was staring at a scope where a green blip had just vanished. November-7-3-9-1-Quebec. Jean stayed on the line, knuckles white, clinging to hope even though she already knew deep down. She listened as the tower called out into the void. "Cessna 7391Q. Do you copy? 91 Quebec. Klamath Tower, come in." In that final, silent moment, 91 Quebec struck the canopy of an old-growth giant, flipped through the branches, and came to rest upside down at the base of the massive ancient conifer. As the search began, the shadow of Crater Lake loomed. This is the deepest lake in the United States, plunging nearly 2,000 feet into the dark earth. The Klamath people tell of a war between Lao, god of the underworld, and Skell, spirit of the sky. They believe Wizard Island is the severed head of Lao, watching the depths. Consider the Old Man of the Lake, a hemlock log that has floated perfectly upright since 1896. Legend says it controls the weather. From the Navy bombers that vanished in '44 to the Old Man Sentinel, the lake felt like a living entity. Many began to believe the mountain itself was deciding when it was time for David Nunn and the two 17-year-old boys to be found. And for 7 years, the mountain chose silence.
Well, for John Nunn, these 7 years were a nightmare of suspended grief. She was a mother of 4 girls, suddenly the sole provider, navigating a world where her husband was missing, but spiritually gone. John held the family together. John Pryor became a ghost in the woods searching for his son. One night, deep in the timber, John realized his flashlight was in his truck. In the fading daylight, John was going blind. He used a branch like a cane, tap, 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 until it hit nothing but air. He was standing on the edge of a sheer cliff. The mountain almost took the father, too. He retreated, and the forest reset its traps for 5 more years. July 5, 1982. While the rest of the country was moving slowly, recovering from the celebrations, David "Rocky" Davis was already miles into the high country training his hounds. He was navigating the timber in an orange, first-generation Ford Bronco, a machine held together by bubble gum, baling wire, and vice grips. Rocky was known to carry a toilet plunger in the back to pull the fresh dents out of the metal. On the hood, he had rigged a house-sized TV antenna held firm by massive speaker magnets. He followed the beep, beep, beep of the radio collars to the base of an ancient conifer. There sat 91 Quebec. The fuselage was smothered in thick green moss and algae, buried under dead tree limbs and 7 years of fallen pine needles. Twisted metal, shattered windows, and wings sheared off by the massive pine lay scattered across the forest floor. Inside, the 3 skeletal remains were still strapped into their seats. Inside David's wallet, the note remained. "Lose not thine airspeed, lest the ground rise up and smite thee." The irony was as cold as the mountain air. The ground had risen up that February evening 7 years ago, claiming the man who kept the warning close to his heart. The story of Dave's final flight is a reminder that the wilderness does not just hold beauty, it holds secrets. Remember David Nunn, Jim Pryor, and Matt Perkins, not just for how they were lost, but for the lives they lived before the clouds closed in.